On a warm summer night in 1483, Londoners glanced up at the royal fortress and saw the windows go dark. Two boys, a king of 12, his brother of 9, locked in the Tower of London, waiting for a coronation that never came. Within weeks, their laughter in the yard stopped. Their servants vanished. Curtains were drawn across their windows. Rumors slithered through the city. The princes were dead, smothered, poisoned, by some means done away with, whispered an Italian visitor. No bodies were shown. No funerals were held. And in their place, their uncle Richard crowned himself king. This is the story of how two royal children vanished, and how every suspect's story darkens the closer we look. To understand why those boys were in the tower, we need to rewind 3 months to a deathbed in Westminster. Edward IV, victor of the Wars of the Roses, dies suddenly on April 9, 1483. His trusted younger brother Richard is named protector for the 12-year-old heir, Edward V. Edward V is at Ludlow, learning to be a king under the eye of his Woodville relatives, his mother's ambitious family. On April 29th, at Stony Stratford, Richard intercepts the royal party. Overnight, everything changes. Rivers, Grey, and Vaughan are arrested. The boy king is now in his uncle's custody. In London, the Queen, Elizabeth Woodville, hears the news. She bolts for sanctuary in Westminster Abbey, dragging her daughters and younger son with her. On May 4th, Edward V rides into London, pale but composed. Londoners cheer. A child king is nothing new. They expect a routine minority rule. The coronation is set for June 22nd. Preparations begin. Nobles swear oaths to Edward. On paper, the fairy tale still holds. Richard, for now, plays the loyal uncle. He rules as protector from the Tower, alongside longtime allies like Lord Hastings, Edward IV's old friend. But the city can already sense tension. The Woodvilles are furious. Yorkist grandees grumble. England has known 30 years of civil war. The stakes could not be higher. Because in 1483, a royal child isn't just a son. He's a weapon, a banner, a reason for men to kill or to be killed. On June 13th, inside the tower, that weapon is unsheathed. Richard storms a council meeting, accuses Hastings of treason, and orders his immediate execution. No trial, no long speech. Hastings is dragged outside and beheaded on Tower Green. A loyal friend, erased in an afternoon. Soon after, Richard sends envoys to sanctuary. They persuade, or pressure, the Queen to surrender her younger son, Richard, Duke of York, to join his brother in the Tower. Outwardly, it looks innocent. Brothers reunited before a double coronation. The Tower is, after all, the traditional royal residence before crowning. Then, on June 22nd, a sermon detonates over London. Dr. Ralph Shaw claims Edward IV's marriage was invalid, that the princes are bastards. 3 days later, a carefully managed assembly petitions Richard to take the crown. On June 26th, he accepts. On July 6th, he's crowned King Richard III. And the princes? At first, they're still seen. Dominic Mancini, an Italian cleric in London, notes them at the windows, playing in the yard. Then, slowly, their world empties. Mancini records that their servants are dismissed. Even their physician dared not visit them. By late summer, the boys stop appearing at the windows. The courtyard falls silent. Londoners whisper that they are dead. Across the channel, newsletters from Flanders speak of the death of Edward's sons. No one claims to know how, or who gave the order. In autumn 1483, rebellion erupts. Buckingham's Rebellion, ostensibly in the name of restoring the rightful heirs. Either the princes are already dead, or alive enough to be rallying symbols. Out of this chaos steps a new player. Henry Tudor, a Lancastrian exile in Brittany with a thin blood claim, but a powerful promise. Henry swears to marry Elizabeth of York, the prince's eldest sister. If the boys are gone, he can unite York and Lancaster in his own body. Now the stakes sharpen. For Richard, the living princes are threats to his crown. For Henry, the living princes are threats to his entire future. Richard is suspect one. He has custody. The tower is his fortress. His motive is clear: spare himself a lifetime of plots in the name of Edward V. In April 1484, a blow falls. Richard's only legitimate son, Edward of Middleham, dies. If he has already killed his nephews, he has just destroyed his own dynasty's backup line. This is where the story darkens. Did Richard, the conscientious northern governor, become a child killer to secure a crown that now has no heir? Thomas More, writing around 1513, says yes. He describes Richard sending Sir James Tyrrell to the Tower, Tyrrell's men, Miles Forrest and John Dighton, smothering the boys in their beds. More claims the bodies were buried at the stair foot, meatly deep. Tyrrell allegedly confessed later under Henry VII, but the confession is lost. We have only More's word. And More writes under the Tudors. His tale mixes real details, tower geography, officials' names, with likely invention. Even Ricardian enemies admit, we must treat it as literature, not a sworn deposition. Suspect 2 is the man who defeated Richard, Henry VII. Once he wins Bosworth in 1485, his motives become just as sharp. Henry enters London as conqueror. If Edward V or his brother are alive anywhere, hidden, imprisoned, exiled, Henry has a massive problem. His legitimacy evaporates the moment one appears. His first move? He orders Titulus Regius, the act that bastardized the princes, repealed and destroyed without even being read in Parliament. An entire legal justification censored into smoke. Henry goes on to execute rival Yorkists, including Edward, Earl of Warwick, in 1499. He is not squeamish about killing potential claimants. If the princes somehow survived Richard's reign, held secretly or exiled, Henry has every incentive to finish the job quietly. Yet he never publicly announces their fate. He lets the mystery hang. Some point a finger at a third man, the Duke of Buckingham. He helped topple the Woodvilles, then rebelled against Richard months later. Did he decide to remove the princes himself, hoping to rule through them, or clear the path for his own ambitions? We don't know. The evidence is purely circumstantial. What we do know, Buckingham's rebellion fails. Richard has him executed in November 1483. If Buckingham killed the princes, he took the secret to the scaffold. The decades that follow are full of ghosts. In 1487, rebels produced Lambert Simnel, first said to be the Earl of Warwick, perhaps even Edward V, before the story settles. Then, in 1490s, comes Perkin Warbeck. He claims to be Richard, Duke of York, the younger prince escaped from the Tower. Margaret of Burgundy, the prince's aunt, accepts him as her nephew. She, who knew the real boys, throws her weight behind this pretender. Is she duped or conspiring? Under Henry's custody, Warbeck confesses to being a Flemish boatman's son. Then he's hanged in 1499. Like so many voices in this story, he speaks only through words Henry controls. The last twist comes almost 2 centuries later. In 1674, workmen tearing down a tower staircase find a wooden box hidden in the rubble. Inside, small bones. 2 children, roughly the right ages, mixed with animal remains, handled roughly, moved who knows how many times. Charles II orders the bones placed in an urn and buried in Westminster Abbey as the presumed princes. A national ghost story gains relics. In 1933, the urn is opened. Anatomists conclude, likely 2 children of about the right ages. But the bones are jumbled, incomplete, and no modern DNA testing is allowed. Today, those bones lie under a stone in the abbey. The church and crown refuse further disturbance. The closest thing we have to evidence is kept deliberately in the dark. So what really happened? The likeliest answer is simple and horrifying. The princes were murdered in the Tower in 1483. Most historians still see Richard III as the prime suspect. He had the boys, the motive, and the opportunity. But the case is circumstantial, and Henry VII's silence is deafening. Dominic Mancini, writing in December 1483 before the Tudors, reports the boys' disappearance and the city's belief they were murdered. That's powerful evidence something terrible happened under Richard. But Henry's destruction of Titulus Regius, his executions of rival claimants, his refusal to release any confession, real or forged, suggest a man tidying up more than just propaganda. Did Richard order the murders and Henry inherit the silence? Did Henry finish what Richard started? Or did someone else act in that brief, dark summer? We can weigh motives, track rumors, and peer into parliamentary records. We can stand beneath the same stone walls, stare up at the same narrow windows. But the princes themselves are silent. No authenticated letter, no eyewitness account of their deaths, no DNA match. Just windows that went dark. In the end, the princes in the tower are less a solved crime than an open wound. The tower still stands. The urn still sleeps. And somewhere between Richard's crown and Henry's silence, two lost children are waiting for a verdict history may never be able to give.